Some mistakes don't happen by accident. They walk in, calm, uninvited, and impossible to ignore. Kang Jae-min didn't lose control. He allowed something into his world that refuses to be controlled. A woman who doesn't fear him, a truth he can't verify, and a child that powerful men are already willing to kill for, because the moment she stepped into his empire, she didn't just bring a secret, she exposed a weakness. And in a world like his, weakness doesn't stay hidden, it gets hunted. Welcome back to the Mafia's obsession, where power, betrayal, and obsession collide. If you thought part 1 was intense, then you're not ready for what happens when the entire city turns its attention to one woman. Because this time, it's not about whether she survives, it's about who reaches her first. The car didn't stop for anything. Not traffic, not lights, not people, because when Kang Jae-min was inside, the city didn't slow him down. It adjusted, moved, cleared, like it already understood what he was capable of. Inside the car, the silence wasn't empty. It was controlled, measured, heavy. Ara sat beside him, one hand resting lightly on her stomach, her eyes fixed on the window. But she wasn't looking at the city. She was thinking, calculating, replaying everything that had just happened, because one thing had become very clear. She had crossed the line, and there was no going back. "You shouldn't have come for me yourself," she said softly. No accusation, no fear, just observation. Jae-min didn't look at her, his hands steady on the wheel, his expression unreadable. "I don't send men to fix personal problems." A pause. Then, "And you became one." That line hung between them, not loud, not aggressive, but heavy, because that word, personal, it wasn't something he used lightly, it wasn't something he allowed, and yet he had just used it on her. Ara's fingers tightened slightly against her stomach, not in fear, in awareness, because she understood what that meant, even if he didn't fully admit it yet. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. This time, he glanced at her, just briefly, not anger, not irritation, just curiosity. "I don't make mistakes." She held his gaze, steady, unshaken. "No," she said. A small pause, then, "You just don't realize them until it's too late." Silence, again, but this time, different. Because for a second, something in his eyes shifted. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough. By morning, the city already knew, not through headlines, not through news, but through whispers, encrypted calls, closed-door conversations. A woman is inside his mansion. She survived. She's still alive. And then the detail that mattered. She's pregnant. That was all it took. Because in a world built on power, weakness was opportunity, and a man like Kang Jae-min, having something to lose, that wasn't just rare, it was dangerous, far across the city. In a room where the lights stayed dim, a man sat alone. The screen in front of him glowed softly, paused, on her face. Yoon Ah-ra, still, calm, alive. His fingers tapped slowly against the table, once, twice, 3 times. Then he leaned back slightly. Interesting. A pause, then. Prepare them. Because now, this wasn't curiosity, this was strategy. Back in the mansion, everything had changed. More guards, more movement, more silence. The kind of silence that wasn't peaceful, but controlled. Ara noticed immediately. Of course she did. She noticed everything. "You're locking this place down," she said. Jae-min stood across the room, watching her, not casually, not passively, carefully. I'm removing variables. She turned slightly. That includes me. A pause. Then, you're the reason for it. No emotion, no hesitation, just truth. And again, she didn't react the way most people would. She didn't argue, didn't push, didn't resist. She just looked at him, studying him, like she was trying to understand something deeper than his words, something beneath control. "You don't trust me," she said. Another pause. "I don't trust anything I don't understand." Her lips curved slightly. Not a smile, not amusement, recognition. That's your first problem. It happened in daylight, which made it bold, which made it dangerous. But what made it worse was how clean it looked. The convoy approached the gate slowly. Black vehicles, polished, official, too official. The guards noticed. Of course they did. But hesitation, even for a second, was enough. The first shot didn't sound loud. It sounded precise, controlled. Then everything exploded. Gunfire, movement, commands, men dropping, men reacting, men repositioning. Inside, the mansion shifted instantly, weapons drawn, doors sealed, voices sharp. But above all that chaos, Jae-min didn't run. He walked straight toward her, because in his world, there was only one priority now. Ah-ra stood still. For the first time, she didn't look calm. Not fear. Realization. "They found me," she whispered. That was it, the confirmation. This wasn't random. This was targeted. Jae-min stopped in front of her. "Stay behind me." Not loud, not aggressive, but absolute. And this time, she obeyed. Not because she had to, because she understood something now. He wasn't controlling her. He was positioning himself between her and everything else. The attack ended quickly, too quickly, which meant one thing. It wasn't meant to succeed. It was meant to send a message. Ah-ra sat down slowly, her mind moving faster than everything around her, because now there was no more space for silence, no more room for half-truths. He walked toward her, slow, measured, dangerous. "Who are you?" Not a question, a demand. She looked up at him, and this time there was hesitation, small but real. "They're not after me because of you," she said. A pause. "They're after me." Her hand pressed lightly against her stomach. "Because of what this child represents." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. What does it represent? Now, that question could start a war. She stood slowly, faced him fully, and then she chose her words carefully. Not too much, not too little. Years ago, her voice dropped slightly. Something was taken. A pause. "From people who don't forgive." Another pause. "Power. Money. Control." Her eyes locked onto his. "You were part of it." The air changed, subtly, but completely. "And now, they believe this child," a breath, "is the key to getting it back." He stepped closer, slow, intentional. "You walked into my world." A pause. "Knowing this would follow you." "Yes." No hesitation, no fear, just truth. Then he said it, the line that sealed everything. "This is no longer your problem." A breath. "It's mine." That night, the mansion didn't sleep, because this wasn't over, not even close. Somewhere in the city, another group moved, quieter, smarter, more dangerous. And this time, they weren't coming through the gates. Back in the room, Ah-ra stood by the window, still, calm, waiting, because the truth was, she didn't come to be protected. She came to pull him into something bigger. And now, it was working. There are secrets a man can control, and then there are secrets that control him. Kang Jae-min thought he was protecting a woman. There are moments a powerful man can control, and then there are moments that change everything. Kang Jae-min thought this was simple. A woman, a claim, a problem to solve. But now, he's standing in the middle of something far bigger than power. A child that powerful men are willing to kill for. Enemies that don't attack the same way twice. And a truth that is still only half revealed, because what she told him tonight wasn't everything, not even close. And deep down, he knows it. You've just watched part 2 of the Mafia's obsession, where power, betrayal, and obsession collide. If you felt the tension rising, if you noticed the shift, if you saw the moment he stopped treating her like a threat and started treating her like something else, then you already understand one thing. This story has changed, because from this point forward, it's no longer about control. It's about who survives what's coming next. So don't miss part 3. Subscribe now. Because in the next part, the hunt doesn't just continue. It evolves. New enemies will step forward. Old secrets will start to break open, and the truth about that child will begin to surface. And when it does, even Kang Jae-min may realize he didn't bring danger into his world. He invited a war he might not be able to control.